Greetings, you've landed at the VUC, IP Communications and VoIP community. We would like to thank Simwood.com for their support. Simwood can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is from onsip.com, and you can go to getonsip.com for a URL people can click to call you. We've been privileged over the last 5 years to be using the best conference bridge on the planet. Yes, I'm talking about zipdx.com, full color, full featured, full HD conference bridge. Our website, vuc.me on the webs, hosted by bluehost.com. And our worldwide local rate dial-ins are from voxbone.com. Okay, and Michael is going to show us now some of the events coming up, starting with ClueCon, August 3rd to 6th, 2015. That's in Chicago. It's always in Chicago, and we all know why. And Ken, thank you for that report. He sees the broadcast on YouTube. So go to ClueCon. That's the first one. The second one is AstraCon, and of course, AstraCon has the lovely Allison Smith, as well as many of our friends. Most of the core members of the VUC are actually going to both. AstraCon is in Orlando, Florida. It's October 13th to 15th. I usually go to AstraCon, but I'm not able to go this year. And I've never been to ClueCon, so hint, hint, maybe I can go next year. Now, I just want to invite you all very quickly to join our group on kiva.org. We have now, this graphic is not updated. I just made 3 loans, so it's 1,011 loans. Our group is at vuc.me/kiva. Join us. I would like to see us get to 50 members. We're at about 47 now, so join us and make the world a better place. That's all I can say. So our guest today, and let me try to get the camera that actually shows me so you can see that I'm a live human being, and that's Michael. Okay, that's me. Our guest today needs no intro, but I'm going to give him, at least one of our guests, but I'm going to give him a little plug to go to bloggeek.me to check that out. And we are going to be talking about, and here's another URL, testRTC.com, https://testRTC.com. Anyway, that's what we'll be talking about, and you might want to take a quick look at that before we get started. Sagi, it's a pleasure to have you. You have been here before, and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy.
Good to see you, and I'm sorry that your lovely daughter is not available, but she'll be our next guest next week, okay?
I shooed her out for now.
Okay, she shooed her out. All right. Well, she was a nice addition to our test session. And we also have Amit. Amit, if you unmute and say hello, if you'd like to. And he's going to be...
Yeah, hi, everybody.
Welcome. You're here for the first time, so welcome.
Yeah.
Again, our topic is testRTC, and Sagi, you're going to tell us all about it. So why don't you start right now?
Okay. It started, I guess, well, testRTC does one thing, and that's provides testing and monitoring solution for any WebRTC-based type of a service. So that's essentially what we're doing now. We started this, I guess, about almost a year and a half ago. I had a friend who told me, well, you know, we need an idea, we need to do a startup with it, build something, and, well, the end result was me saying, well, you know what, let's do something around testing. So testRTC came to be. We tried to get a group together and do something with it, and Amit was one of the first people we met, and that's how we started it.
And the audience, he said, as his microphone was unmuted. Let's talk about the audience for this. Who is the target for testRTC? I mean, obviously, this is people who are doing RTC apps, but let's try to get specific on this. Who are we talking to here as far as people who might want to log in and get an account for this?
So at the moment, what we're doing is, well, we provide the testing and monitoring solution for things that are based on WebRTC. So what happens today, you've built a service with WebRTC, and then what's next is you need to test it somehow. So you open up a browser, you check that it's working, and everything's fine. But the next thing that happens, you understand that it doesn't really work. It doesn't work because in the office it stops working. If you have 10 people in a session, it works. If you start scaling it up, it stops working and breaks. So the next thing is to search for something to test the service, to be able to actually do the QA properly before you launch and release things. And that's where we come in. What we offer is the ability to do these kinds of tests at scale and in an automated fashion. And if you look today at the other solutions on the market, well, there aren't any.
No, it's way too new.
Yes.
But, obviously, we're going to get into what exactly you're testing when we either do a demo or see some screens. But my question is, there's a lot of flavors of RTC, of real-time communications, and WebRTC. You know, the most visible branch, I guess. You tell me if I'm wrong, but to me, the most visible branch is really video calling. First of all, is that true, or am I crazy? Now, I'm not saying the best or the most clever, but the most visible thing we see seems to be video conference.
Well, if you need visible, then it needs to be video. But yes, most of the uses today will be around video calling, although you have a lot of voice as well.
Right.
So, for example, if you take contact centers, a lot of things that happen today actually happen in the backend within the contact center. So people were dialing regularly, but they end up talking to an agent that sits in front of his browser and uses WebRTC to do the voice communication itself.
Let me ask you kind of an off-topic from testRTC, but a question on this. The difference you see, because you're an expert in this kind of thing, the difference you see between any other older click-to-call or SIP client type things and WebRTC. Obviously, the first thing people are going to say is you don't have to download a plugin, which is not always true. But I mean, is WebRTC really a huge advance on that level, in your opinion?
Technically, and in terms of the media, no, that's the same.
Right. So I mean, in other words, the result is always going to be the same, and people are.
Well, there are huge differences, though.
Right.
Sorry for cutting you. That me being an Israeli, so. You started by saying, well, this goes on as this is a browser, you don't really need to download, but, well, you do. The practicality is that in most cases, you actually don't. Okay, none of us here, I guess, in this Hangout actually installed anything. We're all using, I guess, Chrome browsers for that. In a lot of use cases, the majority of people will end up using Chrome anyway. Inside the contact center, you actually control what browser the agents are using, so you can decide, well, this is going to be Chrome all over. And in a contact center, the difference between saying, well, we can just install a SIP, a SIP application on every desktop versus let's open a browser is huge. Just think about the next time the IT manager wants to upgrade the service. He needs to upgrade all of the VoIP clients in his company. That's going to be a headache.
Right. Remember that we need to really worry mostly about the difference on the end user, not the agent part we don't care about, because the call center will equip itself however it has to do that. But what we care about are the potential millions of people who are going to be trying to call in.
Why have you decided that this is what we need to care about?
Well, because the customer's king, for lack of a better expression. You really need to care about who's calling in, and by the way, what you need to care about is whether they're even going to call in. Are they going to click that button?
So you're again focusing on WebRTC as a click-to-call button on a website.
Well, I'm actually talking about that particular technology. Yeah. In other words, you mentioned call center.
So that's it's an interesting use case. I guess that at the moment it's practically not, I wouldn't say useless, but it's not the best one that WebRTC has to offer in 2015. If I were working in the contact center, I would mostly focus on what happens inside the call center itself. And I would also look at something like what AltoCloud is doing. AltoCloud is really interesting because, yes, it is a click to call button, but there is no button. Okay, if you come to my website and you're one of the 1,000 people that come to my website, but I know that it's you and you've got the money to pay, then I would try and solicit you for a call and not anyone else. I would actually put an agent in front of you before you even decide that you want to communicate.
Okay,
okay.
I get that, and that is, it's pertinent. It's definitely pertinent. By the way, Dan Jenkins wants to disagree with me, and he says enabling enable a contact center agent to be able to log in on a Chromebook or whatever is a big game changer. Yeah, I mean, I agree that this is brilliant. Listen, I'm a big cheerleader for WebRTC, but what I was saying is that we always need to look at what the end result of all this is, and generally, are people going to click? And as you just said, if they don't have to click, so much the better. But the real important thing of all of this stuff is the end result. Anyway, I don't want to get off of testRTC, okay, why we're here, but I did want to take advantage of your presence to get you to talk a little bit about that. I'll let you lead the session so that you can, if we're ready for the demo or the slide, whatever you want to show, we're certainly ready for it. Or if you want to talk about it a little bit first, that's fine too.
Well, let's start with a few words, because when we started and when we actually said let's do something about WebRTC and testing, the idea around that was the fact that if you look at other VoIP protocols and how you test them, they don't match with WebRTC that well. You started with a question, what's the difference? Well, there is no difference if you look at the media. It's still RTP to some extent. It's still metrics that look like, jitter, latencies, these kinds of things that you're going to end up testing. But how exactly are you going to test that? If you build something around VoIP in the early days, what you did, well, I'm going to build a phone. I'm going to build a PBX. It was a product that you had to test. So what you needed to do is to simulate the other devices that are going to communicate with your product. And that product, well, it communicated in either SIP, XMPP, H323, so everything was, let's say, known in advance. So a testing company could come and say, well, this is SIP testing, this is how a call looks like in SIP, that's how a user agent is built, that's how a proxy is built, we're going to test that specific device. WebRTC is different because, first of all, you don't really build devices anymore, you're running a full service. So from day one, you need to test the full service and not a specific small facet of the service. And the second thing is you can never know what the use case is going to look like. The signaling is going to be different. It can be SIP, it can be something else. Most of it is proprietary anyway. There are also a lot of logic that comes to play that has nothing to do with the communication itself, but requires other things, like you need to press that button on the screen, you need to sign in to do something different, and you need to take these things into account. So what we try to do is to design and build a testing tool that doesn't care about the actual signaling that you are going to use and should, at least theoretically, work with any type of use case. So what I want to do now is to let Amit, who just left the group chat, to show a demo. Yes, that happens. Okay, so...
well, here, one thing that we can do while we're waiting for him to come back, hopefully he will, is to, first of all, repeat that people could go to testRTC.com. I think there is a sign-up there, pretty sure there is. And you could, well, is he back? Wait a minute, is he back? No.
No.
So you could outline a little bit some of the steps to, if you did, for example, sign up and want to get a login, there's obviously an approval process and so on, and what happens there and what can you expect? Is there a there must be some kind of a desktop or a. I see he's coming back. I'm not really stalling. I'm actually, my brain is not working well to say what I want to say, which is, what is the intro to this whole process? In other words, how is this going to look if I clicked on that link? I could go there and do that with a screen share.
So
I'm just
essentially, at the moment, there is no, let's say, there is no self-service onboarding of users for the service. So that ends up being an email, and we will reach back to you.
Of course. No, but that would be expected to me. But
yes.
What kinds of things would you be able to expect from, okay, once we get this worked out, okay, we decide that we want to work together and that, you know, I'm interested in trying this service, what can I expect to get from it? And hopefully, if we get the demo, we can just move to that. But if not, we can talk about it.
So, yes, Amit is back, but he will show that in a second. What we provide today is two types of services, with a third one that is going to be introduced in a few months. The first one is testing. You can go define what you want to test and how, and then you can run the tests, you can scale them, and you can check the reports at the end of the test. You can test them continually, you can rerun them, whatever it is that you want to do. The second thing is, well, once you've built this use case and this scenario, you can decide to use that as a monitor to your service. So if you have a production service and you need to make sure that it is online, what you do today is ping the servers, make sure that they are up. With our service, you can actually make sure that there is a video call happening or a voice call happening, and there is a response for that, and that the quality is satisfactory from your point of view. So we provide this end-to-end testing capability and convert it into a monitor that will continuously run on your service, and if something fails or a threshold is reached, you'll get an email about that.
Which is extremely interesting, because if you're running this service, okay, you set all this up, that's wonderful, you've got this great application that's running, your WebRTC, and you've got, you know, a potential clientele of millions of people, really, and, you know, if suddenly the thing isn't working for any reason and you don't know about it, you are depending on someone deciding to complain that, hey, your thing isn't working, which may or may not happen. So this is actually almost more interesting. The monitoring system is actually more interesting in a sense than the testing, because the testing you can do in a lot of ways. The monitoring, on the other hand, no one's going to do that for you except the users, and they may not report.
You know, you can still monitor it using, you know, ping, DOM, New Relic, whatever, but they won't look at the actual logic of what WebRTC is. They will stop at the fact that the machine is up and running, the process is there, the CPU is fine, things like that. Right. And there are those that need to know more than just that for their service.
No, that's definitely not enough. You can do that with any website, but that doesn't mean that things are working, obviously.
Yes.
All right, so are we ready, or do we need to talk more?
Yeah, we are. I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi crashed. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so I'll share my screen with you in a second.
So far, he's gone to a fixed image for me.
Can you see my presentation?
Not yet. Unless anyone else can, I'm not. There we go. Okay, you're live.
Okay. Just a very, very short background about what we will see in the demo about our testing capabilities. So our testing capabilities are composed of a few main things. One thing is the browsing flow. The idea of the browsing flow is that we can simulate any real user behavior. So from the point of view of the service, it looks like a regular user because we are using a real browser. So the commands that we usually do, a sample script can be, for example, go to the service URL, enter the credential, click on the join button, for example. After the session will start, we can add a chat message or perform any other activity in the chat room or something like this. In addition to the browsing capabilities, we have, of course, the WebRTC capabilities and the WebRTC flow. The idea of the WebRTC flow is that our browser listens to the activity from the network, and when the page will be loaded with a command to start WebRTC session, actually we will inject the WebRTC media instead of the real machine's microphone and camera. In addition, few things about our solution. As we are using a real browser, we support any signaling protocol you choose to use in your solution, because actually we are running in a regular browser. In addition, our solution can support and simulate any network configuration you wish. For example, if you want to test your configuration through a firewall or something like this, what we call the STAN and TARN services, for example. A little bit about our validation and feedback capabilities. We added some very interesting capabilities in order for you to validate your solution. For example, we can take a screenshot from the page, how the look and feel of the page from the eyes of the simulated users. We can validate the page content. For example, if I know that one user added the chat message, I can ensure that the chat message was received by all the parties in the session. And of course, we can draw any quality of service chart related for the audio and video session. Okay, this is just the intro for the demonstration. Any question before we are going to the demonstration?
Do you have any questions?
Okay, so let's go to demonstration. This is our console of the solution. I will get to a specific test case. Okay, this is a test configuration page. I can define here the general stuff like the test name, description, etc. I can define the number of concurrent users in the session. It can be one and whatever number you like because we are running in the cloud. I can define the number of iterations or the duration of the test. It can be, for example, I want to perform load test for 24 hours. Here we define the test script. The test script is we use a technology called Selenium for a web browsing testing. This is the script. It's quite straightforward. For example, you can see that we are going to URL. This is the current URL of our current session. I need to enter my user credential in order to join to Hangout session. I must be a Gmail user. So here, my credential, I click on sign in. Some more clicks that we need to accept the session, etc. And then we can actually start the session. If you see, we have some pause commands. The idea of the pause commands is to let the WebRTC session to play. In the middle, for example, I wish to take a screenshot in order to see how the page looks like from the eyes of the simulated user. Now I can define the audio and video media for the session. I choose the browser and the version of the browser. For example, you can use a combination. I want to test from the latest Chrome version, for the nightly build version, from the beta version, in order to ensure that the new browser that most of the users will use will still not harm my solution and the quality will remain good, etc. Okay, that's it. Now I just need to click on Run. I click on Run. This is the test dashboard. In the test dashboard, I can see that I have one manager and I have one running agent because I defined only one concurrent user in the test. Here I can see the general stuff, like number of concurrent users, test duration, start time, etc. And now let's go to our room and see if something will happen. Okay, as you can see, I have a new user. Okay. Can you hear it or see the movie?
Yeah, there we go. Something weird happened.
Yeah, something. Maybe too many users in the room. I will just demonstrate with other room. Okay, as you can see, we have a failure because we couldn't send the media to the room. I will try it again, but let's give it another try because maybe too many users in the room, and I don't know. And then I will switch to other demonstration. Just a second.
Yeah, we seem to be looking at the wrong screen.
I don't wanna say I'm sorry.
Okay, this is the video that we inject and the audio that we inject.
'Cause I know there's nothing wrong.
It will be ended in 50 seconds.
Don't be afraid.
Okay. Now the test was completed, and we can see the results. In the result, I can see all the information about the session from the eyes of the simulated user. So, for example, because in the room we had many users, I can see many incoming audio sessions, because as a user, the user received all the audio sessions of all the parties in the room. So you can see all the parties incoming audio. And of course, I have my audio, which should be the one outgoing audio. Yes, it will be the first one. Oh, sorry, it's here. Okay. I get all the information about number of packets, the jitter, round trip time, the name of the codec, etc. And same information I have also about the video, all the video sessions in the room. In addition, we have all the information in charts, so I can see all the users in the room with all the information about the session, things like audio bitrate, audio number of packets, packet loss. And for video, we have additional information like the frame rate, average delay, okay? And I see all the users in the room. I can play with the chart and choose which user I wish to debug and debug the information. In addition, I can see, if you remember, I added a command to take a screenshot in the middle of the session. So these are screenshots from the simulated user. Okay, how the room look like from the eyes of the simulated user. I will demonstrate in a second a test with multiple users. I can compare how the page look like from different views. Okay, any question about a single user demo?
I think that's extremely impressive, the results you have there. So if I'm reading that right, effectively, you can tell exactly what the network quality was for each user, and,
correct, yes.
And probably almost the performance of their own workstation as well.
Yes, and yeah, of course. Okay, now...
sorry, I have a quick question. How do you set up something? Can you set up two tests to run simultaneously? So
yeah, this is what I want to show
okay,
now.
I'll shut up then. Great.
Hangout will not allow me to do it, so I use another service to demonstrate multiple users. Okay, I will use a service called Vitting. If you're familiar, as you can see, we can support any type of service. We have many services that are already configured in my system. I will demonstrate a service called Vitting. Okay, this is again a WebRTC pure web solution. The configuration is very similar. The script here is a little bit more complicated because in the script I added some more commands. For example, in the script, I wish to send a chat message in the chat message room, for example. This is one thing that you can see here, the command to add a chat message. In addition, the configuration here will be a little bit more complicated because I wish to demonstrate how we can load the system with multiple rooms and multiple users inside every room. Okay? So I will start a test. Let's take, for example, 4 concurrent users. And I will define the idea of room. Let me check that everything is okay. Okay. Now, in addition, because we are not part of the rooms, I will connect using a VNC. We will provide the ability to connect using VNC to the room in order to see how the simulated user is working. Okay, I will click on Run. Now you can see in the manager that we have in our dashboard that we have 4 concurrent agents. I get a button for the VNC. Let's connect to one of them. I will open my VNC. Oops, sorry. Okay, this is the machine from the eyes of the simulated machine. As you can see, something, not me, is typing messages here, okay? And you can see that the names are different. Oh, I'm sorry, I think that the test case is all the users are inside the specific room. I will demonstrate in a second the different rooms. Okay, as you can see, at the right area of the VNC machine, that we have 4 concurrent users in the session. Okay, and the test was stopped. Did you see the VNC? I'm not sure.
Yep, we saw it. It was a little bit small, but getting close enough to the screen, I could see exactly what was going on.
Next time I will increase the size. Okay, now we can see the test summary. Now, because we have multiple users, so we have something like the test summary. In the test summary, we have some averages, the information like average bitrate, average packet loss, etc. And we have a table with all the sessions. Now we can click on any session in this list. For example, let's take this one. And I will get similar information to the information we just saw. So I have, again, the location of the agent, because we can use for different locations and compare the quality between different locations, the browser version we used, etc. And we have incoming and outgoing audio and video information, as before. And similarly, we have the charts. Okay, we have many, many users here. And you see, actually quite good, because all users receive the same quality. Summary. Okay? I wish I will take any question, or I wish to demonstrate another test, because this test was not configured with the multiple rooms.
I'm waiting for Tim to come up with a good question here, because I'm obviously lost.
Okay.
I'm following along. I haven't got a good question yet, but I'm still catching up with what's going on.
Well, Tim, you might be able to, because we've been discussing this in IRC with Dan Jenkins and other people. You might be able to interject at least, why this is pertinent. I think I kind of see it, but I'm not as cognizant as you are of things like this. So this would be, yeah, go.
So I guess this is the alternative to having a couple of interns who you put down in front of browsers, and every Tuesday morning you tell them to test the service and make sure that all of the calls are.
I'm not sure, because
well, hang on, and that's so you'd in order to get a group call of 8 people into your service with the new version of the browser that Chrome have released last week, you'd get a pile of interns together, you'd sit them round, and you'd make them try this out, and then they'd fill in a test report and they'd file it somewhere in a spreadsheet, and you'd tick it off, and then you'd do the same thing again next week. And this is a kind of mechanical Turk equivalent for that, that does this in an organized and totally repeatable way, and you're not reliant on on A, paying the interns, and B, them not clicking things in the right order or not filling the paperwork in correctly. So it's a structured way of testing your WebRTC service. Did that answer any of your questions, Randy?
By the way, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure this is not the whole story, because if you take even 20 people to test your system, first of all, you need to combine all the information. For example, you wish to have one tester from US, one tester from Asia, one tester from Europe. All will connect at the same second.
Yeah, so, no, I agree, which is why I started to mention the mechanical Turk, where you might end up, instead of having them all of these people in one room, you might end up outsourcing them. And, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you would want to do that. I'm just saying that's the manual way to achieve this. And and the comparison, therefore.
Yeah, but again, this is only one step from the testing, because after you perform the test, you need to get the results. And today, there is no way to get the results in any graphical way. So now we just can achieve and get the numbers. By the way, there is no solution to collect the numbers from a web browser today. Okay, there is no this capability is not existing. Yes,
is this the sort of thing that you could, in a sort of slightly cut down version, use as a monitoring tool to set off alarms if one particular part of your network appears to be having a problem or something?
Yeah, I will demonstrate it in a few seconds.
But the thing is this, Tim, you're correct. You can use it as a mechanical Turk for that. You can use it also to check different geolocations. You can use it to simulate specific types of users where a network, let's say you want to check for a specific network characteristics. For example, I want some of these people to come and force relay through turn servers. I want to force a given amount of bitrate on the client side. I want to force a specific amount of packet loss. Okay, so it goes beyond just saying, well, that's the use case, let's fire it up and run it.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, I was trying to start out with the bit to get Randy on the right kind of path, rather than
yes, I understand.
Describe all of the possibilities, which I don't even know yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah,
yes.
We're watching this with interest. I just want to interject that Whitebook makes a comment that's interesting, and I'm going to condense it down to a question regarding Chrome versions, because Chrome versions, let's face it, we've all suffered through various changes of Chrome. Chrome changes. How does this follow the various versions of Chrome?
So essentially the following happens. If you are building something with WebRTC, so if you're not serious about it, you test whatever version you have on your laptop at that given point in time. Once you get hit once or twice, what you'll start doing is you're going to start testing at least 3 versions, which is the current version that Chrome has out in the market, the previous versions, because some haven't upgraded it yet, and then the upcoming version, which usually be the beta version that Google has already made available, but hasn't officially released to everyone. Okay, so a lot of the people that develop things with WebRTC test it on the beta version of Google to catch things earlier, and either report it back to Google or modify their service to work on that version, because you can never know when that will be released to the market. Okay, so you need to have all 3 of that. And that's another thing that we can handle. We can say, well, you know what? Let's test all of these 3 versions and see what the results are.
This is a specific question. So Chrome, as it updates itself transparently pretty much, how much lag is there between people using the preceding version and the current version? Because you actually don't have much choice. You're basically on the current version as soon as... I'm trying to remember. I don't think there's any question of do you want to update on Chrome.
You can switch it. You can switch it off for enterprises, for example.
All right.
There are some mechanics of doing that.
Okay.
And, well, I have my laptop open at all times. I don't reboot it for months, for long terms of time. For me, Chrome is part of the operating system now. So I don't close and reopen it. It takes me time to see the Sandwich icon that comes with Chrome today turn to green because it wants to upgrade. So I can be for 2 or 3 days running the older version and not the latest one that has already been downloaded for me.
Okay, so Chrome, and I really actually didn't know this. I don't pay too much attention to it. Like you, I have often have Chrome open for many days. But what you're saying is until Chrome exits, it doesn't. It's when it reboots that it's going to update. When it re-executes. And the second part of that same question is: are you talking about then the Canary version as the next beta, or how does that work? I mean, I think I know, but maybe a lot of other people are wondering that too.
Yes,
what is the next version?
You can decide.
Canary?
Yes, you can decide to install, instead of the official version of Chrome, the GA one, you can install the beta one, okay, and have that run as your Chrome browser.
Okay, so this is interesting because I have Canary, a lot of people do, and I choose to run that or Chrome depending on what's going on. So you've covered with those 3 examples you gave, you're covering the 3 eventualities that cover probably 90% of the cases.
Yes, we can cover more. I mean, you can go and choose in the UI itself other versions, specific versions for older ones if you want to go there.
In your test, interesting.
Yes,
okay.
Here, look on the screen of Amit in the screen share.
Let me put that up for people to make sure that they can see that. Although, is it right on the screen here that we're looking? Okay. All right, excellent.
Okay, but essentially what most will be interested with would be these 3 versions. The beta one, the latest one, and the previous version.
Yeah, I personally, I think that covers it pretty well, yeah.
So it starts off as a basic service of, well, you know what, let's simulate a user going into your service. That's what we do. And we take that and we take all the metrics for that and can visualize it and show you reports of that. Then you say, well, what happens if you want to scale it? You want multiple users. So you can have multiple users. They can go into the same session, like the fact that all of us are now in a single Hangout session. Or you can decide, I want to fire up 1,000 users, and each one goes into a different type of a call. And if that's a contact center, I can now check that the contact center actually can work in capacity, and also validate what happens if I have more incoming calls than available agents. Okay, so I can take the same kind of a concept, the same kind of a testing tool, and test it to scale. I can then say, okay, let's switch the browsers and the versions of the browsers, or let's play with the locations of where these people are going to come from into my service, or what their network conditions are.
Dan Jenkins asked a question in IRC, which is, can you choose OS?
Not at the moment, but that's in our roadmap.
It's in the roadmap.
Yes.
Good answer. Good answer.
May I talk a little bit about the monitoring?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So just as demonstration, we support monitoring capabilities, so we sign out after lots of time. Now I will define a monitor. The idea of monitor is that I take one of the already defined test cases. I define the frequency of the test, for example, every 5 minutes. I define the location, for example, for the agent that will perform the test. I can define few agents and compare the quality between them. I define in what cases an alarm should be triggered, and I can start the monitoring service. Okay, so right now we have a monitor on our Hangout session without any audio, so it will not get the focus, I hope. And every 5 minutes you will see something, and I will get the results of the Hangout session. Okay, and I now can go home and ensure that my service is working properly, and if something goes wrong, I will get a notification about it. And of course, I can arrive tomorrow or next week, and I can compare the results from previous run, for example. What was wrong, what was the problem, if it is related to a specific version or specific location or time of day, etc. Okay.
So how is this done? Are we receiving email notifications, or do we go check on the testing, or how does that work?
Regarding the regular and proper results, you will get here in our monitoring run history. Regarding alarms, you can define the alarm, for example, how you wish to get the alarm. It can be email, SMS, or API. For example, if you have a system like New Relic or any other system, we can send you through an API an alarm to your alarming system. It can be integrated.
Okay. Specifically, in the case of, say, if you were doing 5-minute monitoring, you wouldn't want to get an email every 5 minutes saying, "Oh, everything's okay." So that's
no. The email will be triggered only if there is an alarm.
Right. That was the basis of the question. Okay. So you get an alarm if there's a particular condition that you have.
Yeah, and I can
specify. Did you show the filter for different conditions, or can we talk about it?
Yeah, it is here. No, it is here.
Okay.
Just a second. I think that I'm going to lose my Wi-Fi connection again.
Yeah, for the it's okay. These things happen.
Yes, a second.
Okay, well, while we're talking about this, any other questions? I'm looking at RC. Has some good questions from Dan and a couple other people. Anything else that anyone has to say or questions? We're coming up on 46 minutes. So
the thing nobody's talked about, but hopefully we'll get to maybe after the demos, is what are the costs? What do we, how am I going to pay for this?
We're definitely going to get there.
With money.
In
Bitcoin. How many Bitcoin? How many Bitcoin is what we want to know.
So we're now, we're playing around with the process a bit to see what works and what catches people in terms of what they would like to see. The business model for the monitoring part is rather easy. It's subscription based, so you pay monthly and you can schedule and set up your own monitor for that. For the testing part, it's a mixture of subscription, where you get the ability for a given amount of concurrency, for example, 10 clients that can work in parallel at all times. And then if you need more than that, at a specific point in time, you can pay for that as you go on an hourly basis as well.
James mentioned the idea of freemium, which is a pretty good idea, or trial. Are one or the other of those ideas being thought about?
Freemium, no, and trials, yes. We do have trials.
Trial
we have several companies.
Some arbitrary period of time where you could check it out and see.
Yes. Exactly.
So freemium would be too expensive to define some limited set of conditions that you could look at that would be free.
Yes.
That's. I mean, obviously, this is your thinking for the moment. Okay.
I think the other aspect is that there's probably a significant commitment in terms of building your test cases and thinking about how you want the testing done. So,
yes.
And that probably puts a burden on both sides, both the customer and yourselves. There's a significant, what's the word, onboarding cost. I would have thought
yes, that's one of the things. What we've seen in the past was the first couple of customers that we went through where they were very interested. They looked at it, they saw the demo, we opened an account for them, and then they never logged in. And the reasoning behind that, the way we feel and see it, is that it just wasn't in the right point in time in their life cycle. That was when we only had testing. So you need to actually have, a need to test for WebRTC at this point in time in order to invest the time and effort to build the test and the scripts for that. So what we've done since then was first try to attract the customers that need it now. And the second thing, with the initial customers, we're onboarding them and we're helping them write the initial tests. So the first use case that you want to run is something that we will write with you and for you. And we have the monitor system in place, so you can actually come, invest the hour or so to build the monitor, and you're up and running.
So my feeling is that the place where the place you haven't maybe mentioned, you've probably thought about it, but is tying it into a continuous integration service, so yes. That when when your web developers planning to push a new build for Friday or whatever, this would run through all of the tests, and that's a classic use of Selenium, but it's adding in the WebRTC aspect as well. So I think,
exactly.
For me, I think that's probably more. I mean, that's because I'm a developer, I suppose, but that's more desirable even than the monitoring, probably.
Yeah. So that would mean adding a simple API that allows to fire the system that we have, and then to collect the reports or the analysis of them back to your continuous integration system. Okay. We have that in place in terms of roadmap. and we haven't implemented it yet because no specific customer needed it now.
Okay.
Most actually were more interested in the monitoring part than on the continuous integration part.
Okay, I'm surprised, but the people with money and me aren't necessarily going to think the same way.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hope you can see my screen. If you can see the bottom of the page, the alarm if part is the alarm configuration.
Okay, we do see that, yeah.
Okay, now a question that wasn't asked so far was what happens with mobile?
Yes, what happens with mobile? So,
Oh, very good question. So the problem with mobile is it's never a browser or almost never a browser, and many would like to see this run inside an app. So what we plan to offer there is a kind of an SDK that gets integrated into your own application, and when your testers run it, it will still collect all that information and metrics and log that in our system. So you end up having all of this visibility when testing on mobile using either real people or your automation for mobile testing on your end.
So the other question I got, it's probably not too serious, but I'm assuming you're running this on EC2 or something like that. Is there a systemic failure mode where you'll see? I mean, has this happened that you see that because the customer's running on the same cloud service that you're running on, you get a result that isn't in some ways distorted by the fact that you're both running on the same region in EC2 or I don't know, something like that?
We're too new for that.
Okay.
So we haven't seen any customers having that problem yet. What I can say is that we run on 2 separate cloud providers. So that's, you can switch between them in terms of what you want. There are different locations as well. And there is also a possibility of doing this on-premise. What we use as a technology for this is Dockers. So every simulated endpoint that we run is a Docker on its own.
Okay.
So you can take that and install Dockers on-premise as well and run them from there. So that should solve some of these problems at least. James?
yes.
It's breathing hard, so you must have something to say.
No. I'm in here. I've set up an account. I'm just going through it and studying it.
Okay.
Which is what it's all about.
We've lost your video, James, for some reason.
Live monitoring of something at my end. You know how much I love doing dangerous demonstrations, but this is far too safe, I'm afraid.
I don't know. I think injecting a video into every 5 minutes. In fact, isn't our 5 minutes up? Shouldn't we have had another visit from the Dragon Slayer or whatever she is?
Yeah, I guess you should have. But if I share my screen, I don't want to move to the other screen to check it.
Well, maybe it's a run every 5 minutes. So
Yeah, I will stop the sharing because
maybe
I
I
don't
didn't
want to
notice
perform a
it.
loop. No, I will check.
Meantime, we're coming up to close to the end of our typical 1 hour. Not that we are limited to that, but I did type into IRC, and if you're listening to us anywhere on ZipDX or on VUC.audio or the MP3 stream, if you have a question, of course, you'll have to type it into. Well, actually, I'm watching Twitter and I haven't seen anything. Twitter at VoIP users, Twitter at VoIP users, or on the IRC channel, which is ## pound VUC, however you say that these days, internationally. Any other way that you can come up with a way to ping us with a question or comment, they would be welcome. And by the way, James, and I put this on lower on my screen here, James was kind enough to inject that you can look at some documentation at testrtc.readme.io.
They don't. Yes, they don't include at the moment the latest things that we've had pushed into our service. So that will show something like a month-old version.
Of course, of course.
Yes.
Nothing is ever up to date on the interwebs, but there it is. Anyway, the fact is that this is a community, and that you have a very simple possibility of contacting Sagi or Amit from testRTC by simply going to the site. I think there's a contact link there, and I'm sure it's more than easy to initiate an email contact with them. I can't hear because my headset just dropped off, but I'll be back in a second. There we go. So I know that that's
Plug
possible.
your hearing aid back in, old chap.
There we go. All right, we had a little technical problem there. So if you do have questions or comments and you're too late or you can't get on Twitter or you can't get on whatever, you can always contact these folks. Well, I'm at it, Sagi. I appreciate your participation in our community. We like your posts, we like your blog, and there's no problem with that. So always happy to have you on the IP Communications and VoIP community and the VUC. Always happy to see you.
Happy to be here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Questions, comments? Oh, let me see. Jungle Buddy. More ad hoc. So, Dan Jenkins. More ad hoc testing than monitoring. I like the monitoring personally, Dan, but still, there's a need for this. There's a need for this. Yeah, they have both. Early days, so it's really great to see what will come. Can you not do ad hoc? It's currently only scheduled tests. Maybe I missed that, but there's. I'm not sure what that means. There are ad hoc tests, are there not? Or am I crazy?
Yes. Yes, there. Well, they are ad hoc simply because you decide when to run the test.
Yeah, if you run it now, it's ad hoc, right?
Yes, you need to run the test. You need to define the test beforehand. You need to write the script for that. But how and when you run it, it's your decision to make.
It can be automatic and it can be ad hoc.
I mean, it's ad hoc if it's run right now. As far as maybe I'm missing something there, but to me, that's what that would mean. Run this test now, ad hoc. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Anything else? I'm watching IRC. I'm watching Twitter. I don't see anything on Twitter.
Yeah, very quick question from me.
Yeah.
What stage do I get asked for payment? Because I've signed up and I'm in here. And I'm finding tests. What stage do I get asked to put my credit card in?
Well, I know where you live, so that's going to be easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to want to take money off me, which for you, Sahi,
It's still working out what you can afford, James.
You're right. It's doing the credit check first.
No, we'll start it at the beginning. It is free. You can play with it, no problem. Believe us, we will contact you in a month.
free, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think that's, again, contact these folks. If you're interested in this, contact them. I'm sure you work out a thing where you can test it, check it out, see if it's going to do anything for what you're trying to do, and then the deals will be worked out after that.
Yeah, I guess it's still early days for the business model, isn't it?
It is. It is early days. 555 or 550? Oh, it's 550. Okay.
It's 559 according to my.
No, this is VUC 550.
Oh, 550.
It is indeed 559.
It's 559. We
in
timed
the UK.
out.
In the UK.
So the next 9 new VUCs, we should celebrate the anniversary minute at the end. It's like 558 or whatever. Anyway, sorry, stupid idea. Do go on.
No, that sounds like a great idea. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's,
because I'm itching to go to the mature audiences only version of this Hangout.
Yes,
so
then we can say things.
what we need to do is make sure that we've covered all the bases. Again, testRTC.com will get you in contact with these folks and a trial version, I'm sure. as James mentioned, testRTC.readme.io will get you a month behind documentation, which Sagi will immediately update after this session.
Yes.
Anybody else questions, comments, anything before we move to our coveted mature audiences only VUC session?
Good, I take my glasses.
James takes his glasses off for this. That gives you some.
I'm ready for the mature audience.
Okay, good. Put those horns on, James. All right, I think we should close this up then, unless anybody else has any. Last minute. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay. Well, thanks to both of you for joining us and for giving the demo. Again, testRTC.com. Look at Sagi's blog at bloggeek.me. You will never lose by joining that mailing list. I look at it every week. James, what were you saying?
It's a riveting read, and
it is.
Every time you read that, you will learn something new.
Yep. Yes. There's a lot of things. All right, well, let's move to our coveted and very, very popular mature audiences only session then. Make sure the fader is up. Thank you, Sagi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was fun.
Always great to have you. Please join anytime. Here we go.
Sure.
Hey, that was the bleeding edge of the IP communications and VoIP community. We're at vuc.me on the web. Thanks to simwood.com, who can turn you as a developer into a telco. Our hosted PBX is provided by onsip.com. The site at vuc.me is on bluehost.com. We use zipdx.com for our wideband, full-featured conference bridge. And our local rate dial-ins are from voxbone.com. Every Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time. See you next week.